Okay, so this video is going to be about the vocabulary for this unit. So I'm just going to kind of give you a heads up. If you can see that I'm down in the corner, I'm going to do a few practice problems along with the vocabulary. So our first word is function. We know this. We just spent an entire unit working hard on this, but remember that for every input, there's exactly one output. And so just kind of remember that function machine. And then we learned this one too. Linear function is a function that is a line. If you remember, all lines except vertical lines are functions. So our oblique lines and our horizontal lines are going to be all functions. The vertical line is the only one that's not a function. So we're going to focus this unit specifically on linear functions. Okay? And one thing that we can do with a linear function is we can find the rate of change. So a rate of change, the official definition, is a comparison of two units that are changing. So for example, a rate is like going 55 miles per hour, going 60 miles per hour. The rate of change would be if I'm leaving town and I'm speeding up 2 miles per hour every 5 seconds. That's the rate of that's how my rate is changing. It's increasing. So it's not just a rate, it's how your rate is changing. And we can find the rate of change actually between any 2 points on any graph. And that's kind of, in a minute, you're going to see why. This is a difference between any 2 points on any graph. For most graphs, the rate of change is not the same between any 2 points. So if I have any sort of a curved graph, depending on which 2 points I pick, that rate of change will always be different. Okay, and so what you do is you pick 2 coordinate points and to find the rate of change between, and then this is the formula you're going to use, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. These 2's and 1's mean nothing mathematically. What they're telling you is you're going to have 2 coordinate points. So I'm just going to throw 2 up here, 5, 2, and 7, 8. So I have 2 coordinate points here. This coordinate, I have 2 x values and I have 2 y values. So that's what the y2 and y1 mean. You're going to take your second y value minus your first, and then your second x value over your first. Just make sure that you have the y's on top. So for example, this is my first x, this is my first y because that's my first coordinate point. This is my second x, and that's my second y. So now that I have them labeled, I can just plug them into the formula. So the formula says y2, which for me is 8, minus y1, which for me is 2, over my x2 is 7, and my x1 is 5. So now all I do is subtract. 8 minus 2 is 6, 7 minus 5 is 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So the rate of change between these 2 coordinate points is 3. And that's all you have to do for that. Now, slope is exactly the same definition of a rate of change. The difference between slope and rate of change is slope applies only to lines. Okay? The rate of change is constant. It's a constant rate of change. So remember up here, I said the rate of change is not the same. If I pick 2 points and find a rate of change and then pick 2 different points, it'll be a completely different rate of change. On a line, doesn't matter which 2 points I pick, the rate of change will always be the same. And so that's why we're going to call it a slope, because it's always going to be the same. So think of like the slope of a hill. Okay, slope is talking about the steepness of our line. Okay, so the bigger the slope, the steeper the line. And so that's just something we're going to talk more about when we get there. But it is, otherwise, you're going to find it exactly the same way we found that rate of change. Okay, an x-intercept and a y-intercept. So if you look at a coordinate plane, okay, there's an x-axis and y. And if I have a line, oops, I don't want to draw that line. Okay. The y-intercept is where my graph, in this case it's a line, but it could be any graph, will cross or touch my y-axis, which is that coordinate point right there, 1, 2, 3. That is the coordinate point 0, 3. So the coordinate point 0, 3 is my y-intercept. That's where it's touching my y-axis. Okay, my x-intercept is touching right there. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, somewhere between -5 and -6. So I don't know the exact coordinate point on this one, but it's just that point where it touches the x-axis. Intercept sounds like intersect, so that can help you remember a y-intercept is where it intersects. The y-intercept, this is the one that we are going to use the most. Okay, this is the one that we are really going to talk about with lines and linear functions. Slope-intercept form is an equation of how we write. It's a linear equation. Okay, we are going to, so for example, y equals 3x plus 2. This, I know this is a line because it's of the form mx plus b. 3, in this case, my m is equal to 3, and my b is equal to 2. Okay, I wish those wouldn't capitalize. They're not supposed to. This means m is also my slope. So the slope of my line is 3, and the b is my y-intercept. So this is telling me that my slope is 3 and my b is, my y-intercept is 2. So that's why it's called slope-intercept form, because it gives me the slope and it gives me the y-intercept. Horizontal lines, okay, we know what horizontal lines are. They're horizontal. The slope of a horizontal line is always 0. Remember I said slope is steepness? Well, if it's horizontal, it has no steepness, so its slope is 0. A vertical line, remember up here how I talked about vertical lines are not functions, okay, because a vertical line is going to have more than one output for that one input. So we say that the slope of a vertical line is undefined. We don't say it's not there, we say it's undefined. Parallel lines, you're going to do an activity with this later. They have the same slope because parallel lines never cross, so they have to have the same steepness in order to never cross. And then perpendicular lines, the product of their slope is equal to -1, and we'll talk about more about that in the activity. But right there, that is what you need to know about your vocabulary, and you'll learn more about all of these facts as we get into each lesson.